In this episode, Harrison and I talk about the importance of travel and share some of our favorite and most memorable travel experiences.
Stick around to the end to hear a pretty crazy story about me getting lost in the jungle and Ameer's trip following the Stairway to Heaven. How's that? I'm Harrison.
And I'm Ameer, and we believe that one of life's most valuable assets is the gift of conversation.
In the midst of life, sometimes we forget the true power of a deep, meaningful conversation.
So take a breath, come join us,
and let's talk about life.
So both Harrison and I have freshly stepped off of a plane. We both have been on trips. We've been traveling. Where have you been, Harrison?
I just got back from Costa Rica, which is not very close to here, very far away. I was there for 16 days. It was awesome. There was so many great adventures.
He didn't take me with him.
I didn't take Ameer. That wasn't in the budget, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
I was telling him I have 400 gigabytes of footage. Everything is in 4K. That's why it's so big. But I have a lot of stories to tell. Right now, but also just like I got videos to make and things to share. But definitely an experience. It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see all of those. Okay, straight into it. What was the highlight of your trip? What was the highlight?
I think this could go two routes. I think it can go because I was saying, so for you listeners that don't know, I went to I don't know if I had mentioned this before, but I went to New York City for my 20th birthday. I'm 22 now. I brought in my 20s on top of the Empire State Building, turned midnight while I was up there. It was awesome, legendary. And, that's a pretty big thing. I went for a weekend. It was our first solo trip. And I can honestly say that trip changed my life. It changed my perspective on things. Going somewhere for, it was just a short period of time, but by myself and traveling there was it was incredible. So that's why I wanted to do more solo travel. So I booked this trip because I also just wanted to explore and go somewhere different. And then I was like, I'm going to go by myself. Sure, I can do it. I know. And it's going to be obviously bigger than New York, going to a whole different country in, Latin America, and where English isn't the primary language as well. So I got there and I had this expectation, of what this was going to be. So I'll talk about that in a second. But you asked, what was the best part maybe? So I think it's in two parts. There's either the experiences, just doing adventure fun stuff, and then there's also the kind of personal growth, whatever, spiritual side of it. So which one do you want, or in what order?
let's go for the adventure first, and then the personal growth after it.
So it's funny because I was telling somebody this on the trip, and I was like, I don't have a bucket list, but I have a list of things I want to do before, and they're like, well, that's like a bucket list.
That's a bucket list.
It's a bucket list. So I guess I have I just don't call it that. I don't know. I just don't call it that. But I do have a bunch of things I just would like to do. And for some reason, when I was in grade 3, I had a friend who went to Costa Rica and they went ziplining. And since then, I've always wanted to zipline in Costa Rica. Not just zipline, but in Costa Rica over the jungle. I don't know why, but that's always been in my mind. So I got to do it. If you go to my Instagram, there's photos that they had a professional photographer. So I actually got some photos of me doing it, and I had a GoPro. So I did film that experience also.
Dude,
it was that was by far the best thing. I don't think I've ever felt so on top of the world probably in my life. It was literally on top of the world. It was just I don't know. Obviously it was adrenaline and stuff involved, but I wasn't scared of anything. I was just I think the actual action of living out something I had thought of for so long was so impactful, as well as it being a really cool and fun experience. So that was it. I think that was it. And in classic Harrison long answer form. Yeah, ziplining was just incredible.
Yeah, that's so fun. That reminds me of the time when I was in the Philippines. I did the same thing, ziplining over the jungle. Just there's a little bit of a fear. You're like, oh my god, I hope this holds me. And then afterwards, once you're you're doing it, you're like, woo!
Yeah,
you feel like a bird. I'm like a bird. All right, am I allowed to sing that without getting copyright struck? Anyways, that's so awesome. What about on the personal growth side for you? What did you
This is
learn?
like two things. Like the first thing, like I was trying to starting to hint at there, is that I had this expectation
Mm,
of what this was going to be, and paired with that, I went into it with, I want to film stuff. I'm trying to be creative and make videos. I've got ideas of what videos will come out of this. And shortly into, actually, probably longer than it should have taken me, but it took me a little while to realize that, um, one, having an expectation for this kind of thing is terrible, because you can have like a plan, but having an expectation on how you will feel after doing
mm,
said experience is unnecessary, because like it's not gonna happen that way. Like the experience, or the even, like, even if you plan a trip, you're gonna have things happen that you didn't plan on, right? So I was pretty disappointed the first like few days I was there, because things didn't happen the way I anticipated, and I was like, "What, this is not going to be what I wanted." And like I was just letting myself down because I had this expectation on what it was supposed to be. And then on top of that, with the video thing, I was like, well, then, like, I'm not having these experiences that I want, and I'm not blah blah blah. And then I kind of let go of that, and I was like, I'm gonna use my camera to document me doing things, whatever it is, and then I'll reflect on it later. And then
mhm,
upon reflection, I can, one, is kind of tied in, right? Like the filming is just documenting what was going on, but reflect on, like, how did this live up to maybe my expectation, or how did this impact me, what is the lesson here, and all
mhm,
those kinds of things. And then also taking that, and then now paired with, I have video evidence of this stuff, then I can make a video out of it, then I can make a story. It's like, I guess you could go into something with like, yes, this is kind of the route I want to take. But I think specifically, if I'm touching on like storytelling and stuff, it's like you have to experience the story to be able to tell it.
mhm,
And it's obviously, that makes a whole lot of sense, but I didn't really go into it with that. So I think that was the big thing, was just like, let things happen. Don't try to force things to happen a certain way. Let them happen a certain way, and then give them meaning maybe afterward, or maybe less meaning, more like, just reflect on them afterward to see what did that experience give to you, or what did it do,
mhm,
and I think that was probably the biggest takeaway out of all of it. And once I let go of that, then it was great. I had so many awesome things happen, and then luckily I got to document it, and now I've been reflecting on it. Still, like, I still continue. I haven't looked at I haven't started making a video or anything, because I feel like I got to sit with it for a little
mhm,
longer. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, I totally feel that. I totally relate to that, dude. I totally hear you. It's like when you go into something with your camera and the expectation that it's going to be this kind of video, right? It's going to be this kind of thing. This is the story that's going to happen. It kind of takes you out of the present, right? Out of enjoying it, being there fully for it. And that's very much how I also have been processing this last little bit in my life, and just the video that I have been working on that draws me to tears every time I start editing it. Anyway, sorry, let me give the listeners some context. So, basically, while Harrison's been over ziplining across the jungle in Costa Rica, being a superhero vlogger, everything, I have just I was hinting at this in previous episodes, but I just went through the biggest life transition, biggest decision, and like realized a dream that has taken me 4 years to bring to
Dun
fruition.
dun dun.
Yeah, exactly. Not to a little suspenseful. I just left Canada. I just left home. I left my hometown and moved to a completely different country. I'm on the east coast of the United States, Philadelphia to be exact. And I've been going back and forth between New York. I'm taking a course up in New York, which is like 2 hours up, and then afterwards I'm moving to Boston. But this is basically an indefinite move. Um, so that's what I mean by the biggest decision I've made, and I think we talked about this a little bit before, but just transitioning in and out of travel, I think is something that we need to pay a little bit more mind to. I think when we arrive in a new destination, for example, like you, when you arrived in Costa Rica, it was very much there was an adjustment period, right? You need to get used to the culture, get used to the customs, get used to everything. You feel a little like a fish out of water. But then also same applies like once we return, right? Once you arrive back from Costa Rica. And for myself, it's kind of just felt like an endless transition of sorts, because I mean that's essentially what it is. I just moved to a different country for crying out loud, right? But yeah, it's been teaching me a lot, and I'm just transitioning, and yeah, I'm just getting used to it. I miss home. I won't lie. I miss it just talking about it. But I think, onto the topic of what we want to talk about today, I think travel is important because it gets you out of your comfort zone, right? And you can't grow and be comfortable at the same time. And so, the fact that I'm here, the fact that I'm a little uncomfortable, not necessarily in a bad way, but, just I feel like a fish out of water. I think that's what I came for, and I'm glad I got that.
What's been the biggest lesson for you so far through this traveling, moving
So
journey,
much.
as well,
So
like
much. Well, yeah.
biggest lesson through all of that, but also like you say transitioning in and out of travel, like what have you learned trying to get
Totally.
out of this? Yeah.
Totally. The biggest decisions teach you the most things. And for me, this one's definitely no exception. I don't even know where to begin. I think onto what we were talking about earlier, you were mentioning, just don't go into it with any expectations and just document and then reflect afterwards and distill all the lessons from that. As I've been working on the video that I just moved the video, I'm learning so much in hindsight that I didn't even realize that I was learning at the time. And I think the main thing, well, there's a lot of things. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is what I mentioned earlier. It's one thing that my mentor told me. You can't grow and be comfortable at the same time. Right? You can't grow and be comfortable at the same time. And so, it's the entire ethos of yes theory, right? Seek discomfort, right? Challenging oneself, or the entire ethos of what I say when I say fear makes it clear. Going after the things that scare us, going after things that terrify us. I think that's important for our own growth. I think the second thing that comes to my mind, I'm not sure if I mentioned this on a previous episode, but I will reiterate it anyways, and y'all can go watch our previous episodes on Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts.
Everything's a plug.
Everything is secretly a plug for Harrison's channel.
Funny.
Okay. Subscribe to Harrison King. Okay. Back to what I was saying. The second most important thing that I learned from this is that oftentimes people like us, so that's Harrison, me, you listening, we oftentimes spend a lot of time asking ourselves, does this feel right? Is this the right choice? Does this feel right? This doesn't quite feel right. This isn't quite lined up with what I want to do. When instead, we spend a lot of time asking ourselves whether something feels right. But oftentimes that just leads to us stalling and waiting for a perfectly formed solution to fall into our laps. But that never happens. There's no perfectly formed solution that just drops in when you expect it and exactly on plan, right? Very rarely that happens. Instead, what we should be asking ourselves is, how can I make this feel right? Practically, how can I make this feel right? So when it came to me and this decision to move, and I'll, explain a little bit more about why I moved, but a fundamental turning point for me in this decision was when I started asking myself, how can I make this feel right, instead of which option feels the best? Right. So then that gets me thinking practically about my criteria. Okay, I want to live in this kind of situation. That would feel right. Oh, I want to be surrounded by creators. That would make it feel right. Oh, I want to be doing this, this, and that. Or this is what I want my setup to look like. And that gets very practical. And you can actually work and apply that. And so in doing so, you end up with something that feels right, quote unquote. But it's through action. Clarity comes through action, not necessarily for waiting for it, not necessarily from waiting for it to come, so that's another huge thing that this taught me. I don't know what you think of that.
just to do stuff, like, and not think about it so much.
Yes,
which is definitely that's something that I know you struggle with, because you are so analytical, right? So
totally.
So that, and I mean, me as well, and a lot of people, right? So it's and it's so easy to just think about all the pros and cons and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like you
Mhm.
said, like we're not gonna. You got to kind of throw yourself into something, regardless of what it is,
Mhm.
and then you will figure out what is right. Like you can only think
Mhm.
about it for so long.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, clarity only comes with hindsight.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
Really.
like the third thing that this taught me is that you don't know. You're never going to know. You're never going to know until you look back. Like you may think that you
Of
know what the
course.
right choice is, but unless you can tell the future somehow, then you don't know.
Oh,
Right?
exactly.
And I've kind of, recognized that there's a little bit of ego in me that tries to know what the right choice is or thinks that I know what the right choice is.
Mm-hmm.
You have no clue what's going to be right. I think I was talking about this with um, Mr. I won't name drop him, but the creator that we both
Yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah.
I was talking about this with this YouTuber guy, and he was saying, ultimately, you don't know what's going to be a good video or not.
As you
You
said,
don't know what's
you don't know what a good idea is. I think that's what
yeah,
you said. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, you don't know what a good idea is. You don't know what a good decision. You don't know anything really, and I think accepting and being okay with that is really. I think accepting that is has helped me a lot.
Mm,
Taking
yeah,
the ego out of it and just
I've
like,
been
yeah,
thinking
I
about
don't know
that.
nothing.
I've been thinking about that since you
Mm,
said it, like specifically creatively. He also made a
mm,
video on creativity recently that I watched,
mhm,
which is awesome.
definitely. Mhm.
I said I put the link in the chat, but then everybody would know, or in the chat in the description.
Ah,
Anyway, like I think it's a great way to live. It kind of sounds terrible, actually, but like it's like you don't really know. You don't know what a good decision is. You don't know what a good idea is. You will never know until it has happened, and you may actually never know. But that kind of why I think it's a good thing is because you just need to try stuff. Then like just do
mhm,
anything. It's like I don't know if this is a good video idea. I'm just gonna make it. My
mhm,
my my most favorite video creation to date was one that I just kind of followed that advice and was like, I don't know, like this just feels right. I'm just gonna make it. I don't know what's gonna come of
mm,
it. And I'm like, this is
totally.
my favorite thing so far. So
Mhm.
you don't know. You don't know what it is. How about oh, you hear that little motorbike in the background? I don't know if that caught it on the microphone.
Oh,
Um
I'm in Philadelphia, man. It's so loud here.
how about the transitioning out of
Mm,
traveling?
mm.
What have you been thinking about that? I mean, I can talk about that. I'm sick right now.
Go for it. Go for it. Take it away.
I got back. So what's today? Tuesday. I got back on Thursday, 4 or 5 days ago. I don't know math. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 5 days ago. There you go. I got back 5 days ago, and I actually went to a doctor yesterday just to check. Man, there's
Mm.
somebody revving their engine. It's not just a flyby. There's this just outside.
This is East Coast for you. Don't worry.
um. Anyway, I went to a doctor because I was like, I'm just gonna check. Want to be safe because I just came from another country doing other things.
Mm. Oh, totally.
And make
Yeah,
sure
that
it's
makes
not
sense.
like a mosquito virus or something, and then I don't get it
Mhm.
checked. But I was just like so. I had the worst sleep, and I could tell you because I track it every night on my ring here. I had the worst sleep I've ever had
Mm.
on as long as I've had this for like a year and a half. My readiness, if that means it doesn't mean anything to anybody, but it's like kind of like how ready does it think you are for the day? It was at 27, like 27 out of 100, 27%. So it's terrible. I felt like absolute crap, and I say all this because I thought, I didn't know, maybe it was COVID or something. It's not. And I talked to the doctor, and he was like, it is common for people to get viral infections when they're away, and specifically like when they come back through change in environment and stuff. But then you and I were talking, and you mentioned yesterday, and you were like, every time you seem to travel, when coming back, you say you find. You said the rundown
The
blues or something.
post travel blues. It's
and
so real.
and it's like not just a physical thing, it's a mental thing too. Because
Mhm.
like the past couple of days, I've just felt like everything is terrible. And I
Mhm.
know that's not like true, but that's how I feel.
Mhm.
And not because everything was better in Costa Rica, but it just feels like I've got a kind of a new perspective on life.
Mhm.
Things a big shift, like
Mhm.
physically and everything I've gone through. So that's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling much better today. I slept for 12 hours, so I'm on my way up.
Mhm.
But I feel very kind of still run down. Like you said, the rundown kind of
Mhm.
travel blues and I think that that's something that I actually never heard anybody talk about it. I see people traveling all the time, but nobody ever talks about the fact that you get home, or if you're traveling to different countries, you get to the next country and you feel like just crap, right? Or
Mhm.
really run down. I think that that's definitely a part of it. And I don't know what if there's got to be like some sort of science behind it.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know. You probably
Mhm.
know. But I just assume that you
What's
know.
that supposed to say? I mean,
No, it's
yes,
a
but
good
what's
thing.
that supposed
See,
to
what is it? What's the science behind it? You tell me.
Yeah, totally. Basically, okay. Disclaimer: I'm no neuroscientist, but like just based
It's the
off my own
closest
reading
thing
and
we have access
understanding,
to, though. So,
like while you are experiencing, okay, dopamine is released and triggered by a few things, but one of the main things is novelty. When you are in
okay.
a new place,
Oh yeah.
experiencing new things, ziplining over the jungle, your brain is dopamine going
Yeah.
crazy. When we return back to a familiar setting like our home, it doesn't trigger the same dopamine response and release. Hence why we feel everything sucks. I don't derive pleasure from this. I don't want to accept
Yeah,
everything.
that makes
But
sense.
eventually, it takes a little time for those levels to regulate, right? And then eventually we come out the other side and we're like, okay, I'm used to this again,
Right.
But there's an adaptation period, definitely. I can't cite any studies for this. I'm sorry, but this is mainly based off of my anecdotal,
Yeah, yeah.
experience and just kind of my understanding of how those neurotransmitters work. But yeah, like I definitely find that for myself every time that I return. Well, now that home's different, but every time I return back home to Vancouver after a trip, I always felt it. The rundown, like
Mm,
especially after like traveling back and forth from the East Coast so much, it's like a good example would be the ABC trip that I took a little
yeah,
while
right.
ago. So early on, when we started recording the episodes, I think I might have mentioned ABC News saw one of my videos, and then they flew me out to New York on a whim to do an interview on TV and stuff. And that was such a fast paced, suddenly I'm leaving on Wednesday and it's only
Yeah.
Monday. What the heck? So it was a fast paced adventure, and we were out exploring novelty, new experiences, new people, visiting everywhere. And I got home and it felt like it didn't happen. I got home, I was like, did that actually just happen? Why do I feel so
Mm,
crap?
right.
And I went through like such a slump. I documented the process because I wanted to make a video that week of how to get out of a rut. But then I was like, I'm in so much of a rut, I
Yo, I'm
can't
in
do
the rut. I can't make a video.
it. you know? But in doing so, I recognized and I saw the pattern. Oh, this happens every time after I get home, even if it's just like to a trip, like a road trip somewhere, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And
Mm-hmm.
it was through that, recognizing the pattern, that I came up with kind of like my own personal happiness equation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I recognize that, oh, okay, in order to support myself through this transition, I need to keep in mind my P4W3. My P4W3, that's um, projects, people, um, right, projects, people, personal growth, and just being present. And
Mm-hmm.
then W3, walks, workouts, and the weather. Not gonna lie, because the sun has
Mm,
definitely a huge impact on my mood. But once I like wrote it down, like, okay, this doesn't feel right. What we were saying earlier, right? This doesn't feel right. How can I make this feel right? I was like, okay, these factors right here. And kind of when I started tackling each of those things, that helped me get out of the rut faster. And so now I use
right.
that framework whenever I'm returning home from a trip, or whenever a big event just happens or something like that. That also reminds me, same thing happened, not even for a traveling thing, but in 2019, I produced my own show. And
Right.
that was like a crazy endeavor to put everything together, like a month or 2 or 3 of just hard grinding. By the end of it, once it was over and I had nothing else to do and it's like, okay, it's done,
Same
I felt
thing.
so crap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, what? Do I even exist anymore? I should just go cry, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's not just a travel thing. I think it's just from coming back from any high. I think being kind to ourselves is very important, giving ourselves space and the patience to adapt and transition.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's something I've never really thought about, but it makes a whole lot of sense. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done that much big travel, but it even makes sense for like smaller things. And the crazy part is that I literally leave. What's today? Today's Tuesday. On Saturday, in a couple days, I'm going home for a week and a half. So like I'm traveling again, but I think
Mm.
it's a little different. But that makes a lot of sense. I don't want to focus too much though on the negatives because obviously
Mm-hmm.
there's that. I
Totally,
think
of
it's good to
course.
touch on it, but
Mm-hmm.
how about the positives of travel? Not just this experience for you, but
Mm-hmm.
I know you've been other places also.
Mm.
Um, and what are the do you think travel is important? That's kind of what the
Oh, yeah,
question
of
was I
course.
wanted to
Totally.
pose. So what do you
Mm-hmm.
think?
Travel is so important. So important. It broadens your horizons, gets you out of your comfort zone, gets you experiencing different cultures. You know, I think leaving home in general is important,
Mm,
right? I think for both of us, because we both have effectively left home, right? Home being, our hometown, our parents' place. Um, yeah, I think it's really important, and obviously, it just teaches you so much. I'm curious for you.
hmm
I'll ask because I realize, like, wait, you've been through this before me. What was it like for you moving to Toronto?
mm.
And just for context, Harrison is originally from Saskatoon, right?
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like I drove, so it's 28-hour drive or a 3-hour flight. So that's the distance. Yes, we did do that. We did the 28-hour. And that actually, I did film all that surprisingly and worked on a video, but it didn't end up making it out. Why
Holy crap!
everything? I'm always like, everything's a video. I guess stuff.
That's how we
Anyway,
roll.
I moved, so I was 18. Yep, I was 18 when I moved. And for school, and it was definitely the best thing I've done. One of the best things I've done, I would say.
Hmm.
And again, like everything is, you can give anything meaning after, like you said, in hindsight. But um, it was hard. It was obviously really hard. Like you get plucked out of. You don't realize. I'm trying to figure out how to go about this. I think the biggest thing that I realized was what I didn't hadn't realized before, like the things I didn't know. The environment shift, the city shift, the culture shift, living on my own as well, totally changed my perspective on the world, and it made
Mm.
me realize it's like the whole, I don't know what the analogy of, like, a fish doesn't know it's in water until you take it out, or there's some, I don't know, there's some analogy like that. But it's the same thing. It's like once I came out of that environment and now I'm in a whole different city across the country living by myself, I was starting to realize things about my life before and that environment, and maybe things I agreed with, things I didn't agree with, all that, which I had never thought of before because I was in the environment and it was like what's comfortable. It's what I knew. It's what only thing I knew. And you don't, you can't think differently if you don't have a different outside kind of perspective. So that was a big thing. And the second thing was that, like, just it made me realize, I guess it is all tied to that. Like, I made me realize how big the world is, and how, um I had to meet new friends, I had to meet new people, and things felt more accessible. Back when I was at home, I was like, everything felt so hard. Everything that I wanted to do, it felt so far away. I didn't think I couldn't do it, but it was like everything was not attainable. It's like it's also less common for people to do some of the things out at a home than where I am, but that's again a culture shift. So I learned so many new things. I learned so much about myself. That's kind of what started this whole journey. I changed so much in a matter of short period of time from doing it, um, and all for the better, I think. And that's, that was kind of my experience. It was just that whole flip my world upside down, but the perspective shift that came with that, probably partially because the cultures in the city are so different, but I'm still in Canada. And it just changed the way I looked at life, and I could say the same thing about my trip to Costa Rica. So I think that that's probably just a thing about travel in general, because that's you explore a new place, you learn about it, and then you
Mhm.
compare it to what you know, and you're like, oh, this is good, this isn't good. Oh, I learned this. This is the way they do things. Maybe I could do a little bit of that in my life, or what. Like it's just such an easy learning experience, and that's kind of, yeah, that was what my moving, adventure was like. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. That makes me think of this. The easiest way to know what you have is through contrast,
Yeah, it's
right?
exactly that. It's exactly that. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. I agree. Like now that I think about it more, and this is something that I talk about with my friends in Vancouver a lot. I think, okay, so if there's anyone listening who comes from Vancouver, we are so spoiled. We are so spoiled in Vancouver, so sheltered. It's so clean. Every time I travel outside of Vancouver, I grow more grateful for what Vancouver has to offer.
Mm.
In the sense that since I was born and raised there, I was like, oh yeah, this is the norm.
Right. Of
This
course.
is the norm. Like everywhere is like this. And then I travel elsewhere. I travel to the United States.
World traveler.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I've been other places, but
Yeah.
specifically, I traveled to the US and I'm like, wow, I'm grateful for what we have. And I think it's just a good reminder, too, whenever you're traveling to not take home for granted
Yes.
as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of good things that,
Mm-hmm.
home has to offer. Otherwise, it wouldn't be home. Yeah. I think, also what you said about expanding your perspectives
Mm-hmm.
is something I want to do more of through travel. Specifically, it's a weird bucket list thing of mine. Okay, this is going to sound so weird.
No,
Listeners, hear me
I'm
out.
ready.
Okay, this is going to sound so weird. I want to travel to like Alabama or something, rural Alabama, and spend some time there and meet and talk with people because like that's something that's so far from like my normal, well, sorry, not normal, but my usual surroundings.
Oh yeah.
To go into like rural Alabama where I'm probably going to be like looked at really weird, but I genuinely want to see, okay, what's it like over there? How can I develop more of an understanding of
Hmm.
where people, like where different people come from? I don't know. Is that weird? Like, I genuinely like. I'm just curious
Huh.
because, like, yeah, I don't know.
I'm
Tell me
not.
I'm
I don't
weird.
think it's weird. I think. Well, okay. I mean, I don't know if I would pick that kind of environment to
Uh-huh.
be my top or one of the top
Oh yeah,
things I want to do.
it's not what the top thing is in life. Totally.
But I completely understand what you're trying to say. Like going somewhere that is so different
Mm-hmm.
than what you know, because it's like that's people's reality. Like there's people
Mm-hmm.
that will live in that small town that you
Mm-hmm.
visit one day and
Mm-hmm.
they have never left,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all they know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's such a not like you're not trying to like hate on it or
Yeah, of
anything
course,
and
no,
whatever.
definitely
You
not.
just but like going in and observing and going like there's so many different people experiencing vastly different lives.
Mm-hmm. Vastly
And so
different
like who am
views.
I to say this is the way you're supposed to live or this is the way
Exactly.
like I think you have to, and I think that's what you're hinting at, is that you need to
Mm-hmm.
experience those different things and observe different people, different cultures, different have different experiences to
Mm-hmm.
be able to go, okay, based on my research, this is
Mm-hmm.
what I think is maybe the best way for me to live or what, like, and it just
Mm-hmm.
informs your actions. But if you don't have the data to do
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
the more you have, the more of a educated kind of educated decisions you can make, right? And that's really interesting.
You parsed that so much more eloquently than I did. Thank you.
No. I think it was good. I got it. Completely hear you though. Like,
Yeah.
I've said like I want to travel to, I want to, and I want to go everywhere. Like I don't really have.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the seven wonders of the world, like the original ones. That's like
Mm-hmm.
the big thing. But like I want to, and like as many countries as possible. If I can at least hit 100, but like I'd love to hit every country. I know, no,
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge goal, but like I just think, like you're saying, it's like how's it? You can go, yeah, I'm a world traveler. I've been to Mexico 500 times. It's like great, but like there's 109, was it 196? I think countries. Like, I'm pretty sure that's how many there are. I may be wrong. I'm not a geographical wizard. I'm terrible actually. But like it's like you have to. There's so many different things. Even listen, I was in Costa Rica, right? And I went to 4 different towns, cities, which in like still is only kind of in the north part of the country. There's still so much more to see. But over the course of my 16 days, I experienced so many different things within the same country because I went to these very different. One was it's called Monteverde. I'm not going to try to. I've been pronouncing this stuff. If you watch my videos later, what's this? I can't see. It's not focusing. 195. Wait, really? I thought there was 196. Okay, 195 countries. Amir says. Google says through Amir. Um, interesting. Anyway, it's literally on the top of a mountain. So and they're all about preservation and conservation and all these different things, right? Then I went to a beach town and it's super laid back, like, surfing vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so interesting. Like you need to go different places. And I think that's what I've learned is like, you just need to go. So I've said like, I'd love to go to China and explore that. And I've shared that with some people and they're like, aren't you scared of like their government and all these different things? It's like, yeah, but you, first of all, you can't live your life in fear. Second of all, I want to go there to see, like, learn what it's like to live there. Like, you can't just avoid it, you know? And now maybe people go, well, I don't know, it's not a safe thing. And like, there's different countries you may not want to go to. I'm like, I think one of my favorite, and one of, I think their favorite videos, Yes Theory's videos, is there's two. Thomas went to Iraq and Afghanistan, and they're separate videos.
I
And
love
both of those are
ones.
countries that people often are like, no, I'm not gonna.
I love the Afghanistan one. That one's so good.
And if you watch it, I highly encourage it. I'll put that one in the description. It's incredible because he's like, this is a place where all I've ever heard is like terrible things, right? Mainly on the news, because there's been so much war and stuff. And he goes like, these are some of the best people I've ever met, and their culture is incredible, and like his experience was just remarkable. And that's what I think is interesting about the travel, and thinking why I want to do more of it, because it's like, I wouldn't know that unless, like, you aren't going to get that level of understanding until you go experience it, you know? Anyway, that's just a whole ramble about who knows what, but there you go.
Yeah, no, I think what it comes down to, is perspective.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can't say that you like really understand things until you've gone out and looked at different parts of the world and how different people see things. I think that's part of empathy, you know, and empathy is what makes us human, the ability to understand and put ourselves in another person's shoes. How can we do that if we never actually go visit someone's place of origin? You know? Yeah, I think that's especially important. Switching the gear up, what have been, and it doesn't necessarily have to be for Costa Rica, but what were some of your favorite and most memorable travel experiences so far? Fun stories.
Yeah,
you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah, I was mentioning
you got like lost
earlier.
in the jungle or something.
So I went on a hike by myself. There's a volcano, Volcan Arenal. It's a big volcano. It's actually not inactive. It's just what do they call it? Like,
dormant?
Yeah, that's the word. So anyway, it's not going off. But on a very clear day, there's actually one day you could still see a little bit of smoke coming out of it. Anyway, it's safe to be around, supposedly. I don't know. I'm not an expert.
Everyone says it's safe until it erupts.
I went on a hike. There's a hike around the volcano, right? And I went, and I was like, there's marked paths. This is something like a lot of people do. And I was just going, I was like, I can go by myself. I'll be fine. So I went by myself, and we talk about like learning in hindsight, right? Doing things. So I was like, seriously, went in, like, for about half of it, it took me about 5 hours, maybe start to finish, I think. 5.5 hours. I was not concerned at all. Like, I was like on top of the world. This is awesome. I'm hiking through the jungle, right? And anyway, I got lost. Long story short, to answer your question, I got lost. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I'm not gonna get lost. Like, I'm not obviously just gonna trek into the jungle by myself. Like, there's paths, there's things to follow. I had a map, and it did not make sense. Like, the map was not really accurate to what the signs were saying, and I followed the stuff. And there's a period like of about 45 minutes to an hour where I had taken another route. I'm like, okay, I'm going this way. I'm following the map. This is where I'm going. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm pretty sure I saw that tree before. Like, I know it all looks like the same, but like, there's a very distinct tree. I'm pretty sure I passed that. And I started going, I was like, I think I've been on these stairs and I'm going the other way. So I ended up almost back at the beginning. And then I tried to go in. So it took me forever. I couldn't get out. I got lost. I literally got lost, even following the signs. And that was definitely one of, like, it's got to be the top probably experience of my life. Like, it was hilarious. And the funny thing about it, listeners, which I haven't said, was like, I mean, it's the jungle, right? Like, you just look up what is in the Costa Rican jungle, and it's just like these terrifying creatures, right? Like pumas and leopards, and it's just so many things. I heard a wild boar, which I don't know how close it was, but now I was talking to my dad, and he was like, it probably was closer than you think. Like, it was probably pretty, and those things are very aggressive and dangerous. Yeah. So talk about hindsight. It's like, I won't do it again. Obviously, yeah. I'm glad I did it. I'm really glad I did it. But like, it was actually better not to know going into it. So that would be number one, probably. I learned how to surf, which was awesome. It was super fun.
I saw.
Yeah, that was really good. Honestly, I don't know. It's not really like an experience, but like the biggest thing was just like going into something, once I got rid of those expectations, like just going into stuff, just to go like, whatever happens is going to be great. And I want to meet people. That was my thing. I wanted to meet strangers. I wanted to go on an adventure with a local or a
Mm.
stranger, which I did. Actually, it was both,
Mm.
I guess. And you just meet new people and learn about the culture and what is it like to live in Costa Rica? What is it like to be, a tico is what they call themselves. So I learned that, and I think that was one of the biggest things, experience, which I know is very very kind of broad, but like going into it with that mindset brought out some pretty cool things. But let's say Lost in the Jungle, zip lining, surfing, and then I think just there was just some crazy stories that came out of me treating the experience in that way. Like I said, like
Mhm.
trying to just be open to kind of things. Obviously, trying to be safe. I definitely made some unsafe decisions, like many, but
We won't tell them just in case her parents are listening.
no, they know. Like I've talked to them
Oh,
about it.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, yeah, they weren't too happy. But it was good. Like I never actually felt unsafe. Like I did anyway. But I just think it's such a learning experience. I just think nothing has taught me more than those couple times I've gone traveling now. And I'm not trying to have
Mhm.
this episode be like I'm an expert. It's like, nah.
Mhm.
If you want to learn about travel, go listen to like Lexi Limitless, Lexi
Yeah, yeah,
Alford. I don't know if you know.
yeah.
You obviously know who she is.
Mhm.
She's traveled all the countries. She was
Mhm.
by 21. She traveled every country, and that's
Mhm.
the same thing. When I've listened to her talk, it's the same deal. It's like you just learn so much by going out. How
Mhm.
about you? Like I don't know, actually know where you've been or what you've done. I don't know your
Ooh.
story. I don't know your life.
Let's talk about
Let's talk
life.
about what have you been your top experiences?
Oh, traveling. Okay, so most memorable experiences. Where do I start? Most memorable experience I know. Last summer, I flew to Toronto and I met
Ah!
an amazing, long-haired,
Wow.
good-looking king of podcasts. Easily. Meeting you was the highlight of my life.
Good. As it should
As
be.
it
I mean,
has to be. As it should be.
oh my
Good.
gosh.
I was expecting nothing less. Anyways, so yeah, as for where I've traveled, being a Filipino kid, I've been to the Philippines quite a few times. Like as a kid, I think I went like every 3, 4 years, back and forth, oftentimes for Christmas, celebrating Christmas, Pasko, celebrating that there. Um, so that's just that's the homeland. Been all over the Philippines, like Manila, Cebu, Davao, Boracay. I want to go to Palawan eventually at some point. So there's the Philippines. I had a layover in Taiwan, really briefly, but I was like, wow, I'm in Taiwan. Had a layover in Japan. Um, had a long layover and adventure in Hong Kong, which I will share in a little bit. Across the U.S., so all of the Western states like Washington. So sorry, Washington, Oregon, California. Love it there. East Coast of the U.S., Dallas, Texas, as well. Um, I have yet to go to Europe. I really, really
That's
want to go to
next. That's
Europe.
next on my list too.
We gotta go, dude. We have to.
I think Maria and I
Can
are
you
gonna
imagine how
go
fun that
next.
would be? Like a trip
Yeah,
together or
we need to
something?
do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So, like, also,
Take.
like, just on a totally practical note, like, from Toronto to JFK is very easy, and then JFK is like to the rest of the world, right?
I
So I'm
mean,
like,
even here we got a lot, but you'll have more in New York.
mhm.
But
Yeah,
it's
totally. And
crazy.
like New
Yeah.
York is like right here. Anyways, like the bus is like an hour and a half. Anyways, okay, memorable travel experiences. The first thing that comes to my mind: Hong Kong,
Yeah.
August 2019.
Whoa. Here we go.
18-year-old Amir. He just graduated high school. Wait, no, not high school. I just left college. That's what it was. Yeah, I just left college. And I was going on a trip to visit the Philippines, specifically to spend time with my dad, and it was going to be for a month. On my way to the Philippines, I saw, oh, hey, I can have a 24-hour layover in Hong Kong. And I typically like doing that because like kind of like a 2-in-1 package. You get to see a new place.
Exactly.
A little bit. That's what I try to do with all my trips.
A little side quest.
Exactly. It's side quests. Exactly. So I booked that, and I booked a hotel in Hong Kong as well. I land in Hong Kong, and it's 4 p.m. It's 4 p.m. I land in Hong Kong. I don't really know anyone there. I don't have cell service. I don't have phone. I don't have any Hong Kong dollars. So no people, no phone, no money. I decided, you know what? I'm just gonna take the train to my hotel. So like I take the train from the airport.
What?
I had like some spare change.
Okay.
Some spare change from like my mom's previous trip to Hong Kong.
Okay.
So I decided to take the train. After a little while, you know, I'm navigating the train. I can barely read, you know, any I think it's predominantly Canto there, but there's like Mandarin and Canto. Anyways, so I'm having a hard time reading anything. Apparently there's no elevators in the train station, so I need to like lift my bags, and I'm carrying one big suitcase, one small suitcase, a duffel bag, and a backpack, right? Because it's a month-long trip. So I'm like carrying it all up the stairs, and then, you know, eventually I get into the train and everything. And I told you I landed at 4 p.m.
Oh, no.
Rush hour in one of the world's busiest and most populated cities.
Oh, no way.
I'm holding on to my stuff, and I'm crammed in like a sardine. There's so many people. Furthermore, it was like 35, 36 degrees Celsius, plus the humidity. And so it was like drenched in sweat. Like, it's like, and I'm on the train, like holding on, like, I will survive.
Yeah.
You know, eventually I get to my stop. Luckily, I'm not lost. Okay. And I get out, and I filmed a video on my phone because I was documenting a lot of this. I filmed it on my phone. Okay. Thank God I got to my train. I didn't get lost. Foreshadowing. I arrived at my train station.
How'd you even know where to get off?
I planned it out. Like I mapped it out like before I landed and everything. There's Wi-Fi in the airport. So I get to my train station. It's dark out now. You know, it's like 6:37. And I'm walking in the direction of my hotel because I have a downloaded map on my phone. I'm like, okay, that's where my hotel is. And I'm walking. It's dark. And suddenly, as I'm walking down the sidewalk, I'm like, okay, why is the street becoming more jungle? I was like, what happened? I was like, what happened to the buildings? I'm like, why is it dark? Where did the street lights go? I'm like,
oh my God.
Okay. I'm like, and then it's like a highway, like going up a mountain. I'm like, what's happening? So then I check my phone. I'm like, wait, my hotel is supposed to be here. I see a guy in a parking lot, and I ask him English. He's like, no English, something like that. I'm like, hotel, and I'm showing him like the logo. It's like, and then he points in a direction. Dude, and what he points to is, and I'm not kidding you, like I'm not exaggerating. What he points towards is this big mountain, like hill thing. Like it's like a big hill, big mountain. And he points, and I see a flight of stairs that's probably, I would estimate, 7 stories high. 7 stories of stairs.
Oh my God.
And it looks like something like straight out of like a kung fu training montage, like the Great Wall of China, like just steps going up a mountain.
Just Stairway to Heaven.
Yes, I have all the footage still. I have all the footage. And like it's just this staircase, and there's like trees and jungle on either side of it. And I look down at my suitcases. I look up at the staircase.
Did you do it?
Here we go.
Yeah.
Yes. So I carried all 4 of my bags up that staircase while crying, sweaty, jet lagged, hungry because I didn't eat anything on the plane. I was holding in my stuff, you know, number 1 and number 2. I was holding it all in, cry, and I'm just like making my way up the staircase. I make it to the top after what feels like an entire evening. I make it to the top, and then I reach the receptionist desk, and I'm like, hello, I'm here to check in. And then he turns around, he sees me, he's like visibly startled. He's like, because I look like some crazy guy, like sweating, crying. It's like, I'm here to check in. It's like, okay, sure, that's going to be like a $200 deposit, please. I'm like, I have $10 in my pocket. He feels bad for me, so it's like, okay, just go check in, just go. I crash in my room, eat oatmeal with a toothbrush, and then I just pass out. The next day was great. I fly out, everything smoothly, but that is the most memorable travel experience of my life.
Dude, you're so young too. Like, that's pretty crazy.
I was 18 at the time.
Yeah.
When I tell you there were so many effing stairs.
I'm sure. Oh my
There
gosh.
was
If you can find that footage,
I have it all on my hard drive.
I'll put it
Please
on the video.
I will send it to you.
We could at least see the stair. Oh my gosh, dude.
So, moral of the story. Oh, wait, it gets better. Then the next day, once it was light out,
Yeah.
I saw, was
there like a...
there were elevators on the side.
Oh my gosh.
There was an elevator shaft on the side that I didn't see.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe this. That's hilarious. What an adventure. Aren't you glad you took that little layover?
Yeah, I totally am. It's the most memorable thing I've done, but like lesson learned, check for elevators.
Yeah, there you go. Now you know. That's your takeaway from today.
Yeah,
but I think
exactly.
that kind of I know it's crazy, but like reminds me of even just like my getting lost in the jungle and that kind of stuff. It's like I think the best experiences come from either lack of planning or like just going for it, like you said, like just doing things. It's like that was probably not the best way you could have spent your time, and like maybe the best decision. Mine was definitely not, but it's something good came out of it, as long as you're not being completely reckless.
Exactly. And I think like I'm glad that it happened, because now whenever I go on any trip and whenever it's difficult, I always say, if I could survive Hong Kong, I'll be fine.
Exactly.
So for example, when I visited you in Toronto on like 1 hour of sleep,
1
or 2 hours of sleep, and we went out and explored the city, internally I was saying, if I was able to do Hong Kong, I can do this.
Yeah.
Or like when I was stranded in Dallas on my way here, which is another story. When I was stranded in Dallas, I was like, if I can do Hong Kong, I can do this. No problem. Flight cancellation, whatever.
Exactly.
So
that's it. Just travel. I think that is definitely the moral of this. I knew that would be the answer to the question, but it's like, if you haven't, and I know it's like, it's a tough thing to talk about also because it's so expensive, right? And it's like,
totally.
So it doesn't even have to be you don't have to go to Hong Kong, but like what I actually really realized from all of this, because I had a plan of where I was going and that kind of stuff, but like, I didn't really know what I was doing day to day. And I just literally, I would walk down the one street like so many times, and I just explored. I went to little shops and stuff. It's like, I was at so many different coffee shops and so many different things. And like here I come home and like, I got one I know I really like and go to it all the time. And I'm like, I don't even like I did so much exploring on this literally like 3 blocks maybe, there. And I don't do any of that here. And that's something I want to bring back. It's just like that explorative mindset of it doesn't have to, like, it could just be like, oh, there's a doorway here. This is supposed to be a shop. Let me go in and see. And you might find something you had no idea, because those things are just everywhere, but you don't realize it.
The best adventures are right under your nose.
Wow. Look at that. That's pretty good.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. Well,
awesome.
Dear listeners, thank you for joining us for this great episode. Where can the people find you, Harrison?
In Costa Rica.
He's going
lost
back
in the jungle. I will 100% go back. It was incredible. That
totally take me with you.
I will. It's a podcast retreat. I'm on Instagram and YouTube and I don't know, everywhere at Harrison King Official. You can find me there. But check out YouTube if you haven't checked it out and you'd like to listen to the podcast. And Ameer, how about you?
You can find me at Ameer Corro everywhere you get the internet. That's AMEERCORRO.
Awesome.
And of course, where can you listen? Where can the people find more of the podcast?
That's our Instagram, our TikTok. It's at Let's Talk About Life Pod. Is good. There's good stuff. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, lots of good stuff. Lots of shareables, lots of stuff there. And if you want to keep on supporting the channel, go subscribe to us on YouTube. Check us out on Instagram. All the things, we'll leave it all in the description. Of course.
Yes, of course. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next week. If you enjoyed this episode and want to support the show, make sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Visit us on Instagram and TikTok at Let's Talk About Life Pod. And for more information, head on over to harrisonkingofficial.com/podcast. Now it's time for you to get out there and have a deep, meaningful conversation in your own life.